must go through this about 20 times a day, but it's become routine for us now.
For Dr. William Pascal and his colleagues working in the ICU,
you have to wear double gloves.
Repetition is required. Gown on, gown off, repeat.
So you get pretty good at putting these on after a while.
They must change their protective equipment each time they check on a new patient.
All right, let's go into our gentleman here. Let's look at the vent.
Their unit at Maimonides Medical Center in Brooklyn is filled with people who are critically ill from COVID-19.
Right now we have 22, and I think we're expecting 2 more.
And there's no slowing down.
Dr. Pascal, they need you over here, please.
Okay, come, let's go.
He's called upon to tend to a patient whose blood pressure and oxygen levels have dropped alarmingly low.
Do you want a Neo squirt, baby?
So he tries a potentially life-saving intervention called proning.
So we basically turn patients onto their stomachs.
It worked.
Saturation's at 83. We'll take it. It's coming up slowly.
It's coming up
Blood pressure steady.
The patient is out of the woods. For now.
We spent a lot of the day putting out fires, jumping from one disaster to the other.
This is life on the front lines in the epicenter of our country's pandemic, New York.
Whoa, what is happening here?
Where at least 220,000 people have tested positive and at least 14,000 have died. ABC News was given guided access inside the medical center.
Do you know what we're down to? Is it 100 or is it 50? Is it 200?
From its ER.
We're working on the assumption that almost every patient has corona at this point.
To its ICU.
You're battling with death.
We're going to give that girl a unit of blood over there.
In this field, we're used to seeing patients die, but not so many.
Nearly 2 weeks in a hospital at war with COVID-19.
One bed empties, another patient comes in.
And the Herculean efforts of the medical staff trying to win.
You go home every day feeling exhausted and burnt out, but if we can help a few people, it's worth it.
We initially, when this started, had tried to divide the emergency department between hot and cold zones and having COVID patients on one side of the department and non-COVID patients on the other. As the diseases progress and the pandemics worsen, pretty much the entire emergency department's a hot zone. I mean, you just figure out who's on tonight and who else is watching them tonight.
Dr. John Marshall runs the hospital's ER, where they've already seen thousands of patients since the crisis first hit.
Did you see, I sent out the ventilator update for the morning, but there are 50 right now. I think there are 50 free vents right now and 40 free high flows.
Dr. Marshall has done his fair share of triaging.
Call me if you need anything.
From victims of the Columbine massacre to soldiers in Afghanistan. But he says COVID-19 is unlike anything he's treated before. His team receives a patient in respiratory distress. The medical staff quickly gets to work.
This kind of thing is happening multiple times an hour during the busiest times of day. A day or so ago, we put 14 people on ventilators in a less than 12-hour period. And that doesn't include the patients who are getting oxygen or getting high-flow oxygen or getting other respiratory modalities.
To help with the massive influx, the hospital has set up field tents on the sidewalks outside the ER.
Hey guys, I did deploy with the Air Force and the Army in Afghanistan, so I've given care out of tents before. 21 or 22, whenever you're done. We don't think about needing tents in the middle of a city, but I do think New York City in general has been good about preparing for large disasters like this and coordinating the work between the hospitals. And if it wasn't for that, we'd actually be in a much worse position.
They've also put out a call for reinforcements.
Early March, the numbers coming out of New York started getting very, very scary.
Dr. Astrid Holland answered that call. She left her life in Salt Lake City to come work at Maimonides, where she had trained.
Seeing friends and colleagues being affected by it, I felt as if I had to do something. If not me, then who else?
Ms. Hilton. What's bothering you? You having this tightness in the chest? It started on Monday, and you were just sitting down when it started? And you have not had any fever or cough with this?
No, but I've been taking my temperature and no fever.
Her patient was tested for COVID-19 and then released.
There's so much of the communication that we do, I think in general, is so based on facial expressions and kind of trying to come up to patients looking like this and kind of shouting to them a little bit makes that communication, certainly with patients, a lot harder, I find. All right, thank you.
Now it's their eyes that tell us the story their faces can't. Eyes that are worried, tired, and feeling their own pain.
And one of the parts of our job is delivering bad news to patients. Honestly, it's one of the more psychologically exhausting parts of the job.
Dr. Daniel Nicola practices anesthesiology. All too often these days, he's had to make the call no one ever wishes to make.
Telling someone that their family member may not make it, it takes a lot for, I don't know, it takes a lot for you to be able to, muster the strength. There are a lot of times that people get angry. There are some people that just accept it, and there are some people that cry. Okay.
There's little time for Dr. Nicola to deal with his own feelings.
Danny, we're gonna give that girl a unit of blood over there.
He has to turn back to running the hospital's makeshift ICU.
We are face to face with these patients who are breathing rapidly, coughing, and we need to place the breathing tube to properly oxygenate them and keep them alive, but that requires us to be directly over the face of the patient. So you can imagine today we got called about 15 or 16 times to do this. I'm afraid that I might catch it and that I might spread it to the people that I love. I am scared that one day I am going to miss something or not change my gloves or not wash my hands at some point and bring something home. So I am scared.
Dr. Marshall shares that same fear.
My home life has definitely changed during this crisis.
COVID is here.
And my 3 boys just call me Dr. COVID now.
Hello. Spray your hands. You spray the doorway too.
Stop, give me a minute. The second I walk in the door, they immediately remind me that I can't go in the house more than 2 feet without stripping off all my clothes and hopping in the shower. Would you guys be happier if you were somewhere else and I wasn't coming home?
No.
My wife and I are sleeping in different rooms and I make sure she doesn't get sick, so she can be there to take care of the boys. Can you guys get stuff to drink on the table? But we're still having dinner together. I have to say, this is probably the one time we could leave you guys home alone, because your friends' parents won't let them come over here anyway, because they're all quarantined.
You afraid we're gonna throw a party?
No, I'm not afraid you're gonna throw a party. I trust you. If I don't have a little bit of time with my family every evening, I think this would all be a lot harder. Being with my family is the kind of thing that reminds me why we're doing all of this and why this is so important. My family is sort of a touchstone for me that allows me to reset and come back and do the same thing the next day.
Hi everyone, George Stephanopoulos here. Thanks for checking out the ABC News YouTube channel. If you'd like to get more videos, show highlights, and watch live event coverage, click on the right over here to subscribe to our channel, and don't forget to download the ABC News app for breaking news alerts. Thanks for watching.